Hello, my fellow kaiju fans. I'm Godzilla Guy G, and yes, you heard right, my intro has changed. Now, you might be wondering why it has changed, and that's because this is the time on my channel where I'm branching out. I'm not just gonna be talking about Godzilla stuff anymore. I'm gonna be talking about the whole kaiju genre in general. I'm not just in the little headspace, the little Godzilla headspace anymore. I'm now going to be talking about all sorts of kaiju movies. So I thought, since I'm doing that, I might as well change the intro, so that, it makes more sense. Because up to this point, I've kind of just talked about Godzilla, but in my previous video, the King Kong Roar Evolution, that video was about King Kong. I didn't talk in it, but it was about King Kong, which obviously isn't Godzilla. There were some Godzilla movies in that compilation, but this is the point in my channel where I'm starting to talk about things that aren't Godzilla. And with that, I'm also starting a new series. Well, maybe. You can consider this like a pilot episode, sort of a new series that might end up becoming a usual thing on this channel. And that is a podcast series. Well, yeah, it's basically a podcast series because there's no real visuals here, you're just hearing me talk. Now, the reason why I decided to make this a series is for a couple of reasons. First off, if I make a series like this, that means that I can maybe get more videos up. And the reason behind that is because these videos will be very easy for me to make. I just need to watch the movie I'm going to be talking about, write down some info about it and stuff like that, and then just talk. I don't really need to find like a bunch of footage and stuff like that like I need for my other videos. So, with introducing the series, I was hoping that maybe this will lead to me uploading more than like once a month. And the second reason is because of the fact that I already have a review series, my KAIJU series. I don't know if that series will be very like a regular occurrence on this channel anymore. But either way, in that series, I kinda have like this format where I talk about both the negatives and the positives of the movie. But the thing is that there's a lot of movies out there, or well, not a lot, but some, that I only have like either good things to say about or bad things to say. Like for example, Godzilla 1954 or Space Amoeba are movies that I can't really say anything bad about, and so the KAIJU format wouldn't really work. But in a podcast series like this, well, again, it's not really a podcast, but it kinda is. Either way, call it whatever you want. I'm calling it a podcast series. I can just kinda, talk about the movie. Just go through a couple of bullet points, and if there's no negatives to talk about, then I won't talk about any negatives, The format won't get ruined, and I can just kinda talk about whatever movies I want. So yeah, that's really the main reasons why I think I want to start this series. So yeah, now you know that. And it will be called the Triple G Cast. Kind of a weird name, but I'm going with it because Godzilla Guy G, 3 G's, Triple G. It's funny. Anyway, though, so when starting the series, I was like, which movie do I start with? Like, which movie do I begin this series with like the pilot episode? And at first, I was thinking a Godzilla movie because that's kind of been the theme here. But again, I want to branch out, so I decided against it. And I decided on one movie that I wanted to talk about because I think it's one of the most underrated kaiju movies out there. And I actually think this is like the best kaiju movie that Toho's made, like Toho, that isn't a Godzilla movie. And that is War of the Gargantuas. Yep, that's right, I'm gonna be talking about War of the Gargantuas, and it's gonna be the very first movie in this series. Now, one more thing before I start talking about the movie itself. I know this is a long intro, but I kinda need to explain a lot of stuff here. So, one final thing. If you guys liked this type of video and you want to see more in this podcast series, then be sure to leave a like on the video, and if you want, you can tell me down in the comments as well. But primarily like the video, because then I'll know that people actually like the video, and I can actually make it into a series. Again, consider this a pilot episode, okay? So if you like it, then be sure to like it. Either way, now let's talk about the movie itself. So, War of the Gargantuas came out in 1966 and was directed by the legend himself, Ishiro Honda. The cast includes Russ Tamblyn, Kumi Mizuno, and Kenji Sahara. I'm sorry if I butchered any of your names. The movie has a runtime of 88 minutes, and now I'm gonna read out the plot synopsis from Letterboxd. A crisis, striking from the mountains and the sea. Gyra, a humanoid sea beast spawned from the discarded cells of Frankenstein's monster, attacks the shores of Tokyo. While the Japanese military prepares to take action, Gyra's gargantua brother, Sanda, descends from the mountains to defend his kin. A battle between good and evil ensues, leaving brothers divided and a city in ruins. So yeah, credit goes to Letterboxd for that plot synopsis. I just think I'm gonna do that in the series so far, you know. If this becomes a series, I'm most likely just gonna read like the Letterboxd synopsis of the movie, because I just think they work quite well. But either way, now that we know a little bit about the movie, I'm going to talk about it, you know, with my personal opinions on it. I'm gonna go through 5 bullet points, okay, that I think, I'm not 100% sure yet, but I think these are gonna be like the standard things I'm gonna talk about in the series, again, if it becomes a series. And that's going to be the story, the characters, the kaiju stuff, the music, and other things that I want to talk about. So let's start with the story. Now, the story of this movie isn't anything very complex or anything, but it's simple and effective. I think it's quite an interesting story, and it works very well, you know, it's very easy to follow, and it gets the job done. It gives us the chance to see these monsters brawl it out, and I think that's pretty great. Now, if this movie is a sequel to, like, Frankenstein Conquers the World, it's never really made clear in the movie, like, the movie doesn't treat itself like a sequel, but, like, other, like, media in the kaiju genre, like, they say it's a sequel, I don't know, but either way, anyways, as its own movie, because that's what I'm going to be basing this on, as its own movie, because the movie itself doesn't really feel like a sequel. On the movie its own, the story is good, it's solid, there's some decent mystery in the beginning actually, with how Gyra came to be and all that stuff, and whether Sanda is even alive or anything like that, so yeah, the story, I mean, it's simple, but it gets the job done, and it's effective, and it's fun, so I really can't complain about the story. Now, the characters are, in this movie, in my opinion, mostly solid. I think they were pretty decent for what they were. Now, story and characters are not something that I, like, have really high expectations for in kaiju movies, and they're not really, like, the big things that, like, makes or breaks the movies for me, but they're, like, extra things that can, like, make a good kaiju movie and, like, turn it into a great kaiju movie. And the characters here were pretty decent. You know, they're not anything amazing, but they're pretty solid. Though I will say, Russ Tamblyn, the American actor, his performance isn't very good, and because of that, the scenes with his character aren't as enjoyable as they could otherwise be. I mean, the character himself is fine, but the acting is it just seems so unenthused. And like, yeah. So I kind of wish that he would have been a bit better in terms of acting, but hey, it's not a huge deal. So overall, the characters were mostly solid, and really the only bad performance here was from Russ Tamblyn. Or I don't even know if I could call it bad, it was just very unenthused, which kind of sucks, but the rest actors were good, so it doesn't really matter too much. Now we're getting into the juicy stuff, you know, the things that we come to see in kaiju movies. The kaiju stuff. And when I say that, I'm talking about the kaijus themselves and the action. Now, I personally really like both Sanda and Gyra. They're a bit more, I guess you could say, ugly and like different looking from other kaiju, but I think it works. You know, I mean, yeah, they're not the prettiest kaiju, but that's not really the point either. And I think it works very well, especially for Gyra, because he's the bad guy in this movie, and the kind of disgusting design makes him look a lot more threatening and a lot more scary. So I really like that, and Sanda is also pretty good here. I also like the fact that they're well, it's cool to get some kaiju that are a little bit smaller, but also ones that are more humanoid, because we don't get a lot of that. And because of that, it leads to some really great action scenes, which is what I'm going to talk about now. The action scenes in this movie between the kaiju, like the fight scenes, are really good. Everything from the opening scene to the fantastic airport sequence, and of course the final battle. That goes on for a long time, but doesn't like become stale at any point, and has great moments like Sanda hitting Gyra with a boat. It's absolutely fantastic, and this is what I said when I said that the suits are more humanoid. Bleh. Humanoid. There you go. Because of that, it makes the fight scenes more unique because they have a lot more movement than like the other rubber suits in the genre. And because of that, the fight scenes are pretty great. I mean, not to say that something like the Godzilla Showa series doesn't have good fight scenes, because they do. But this is just a bit more, I guess, flexible, you know? They can be a lot more, they can have a lot more different moves and stuff like that, and I enjoyed it. Oh, and how could I forget, when talking about the kaiju, and not mention the giant octopus that randomly appears at the beginning of the movie. Like, seriously, that giant octopus just loves coming out of nowhere in random kaiju movies, right? Like, I've never understood that, but it's kind of fun as well, because it's just kind of this joke, like, honestly, because he just appears sometimes. And he appears in the beginning, and it's actually a pretty cool scene, so you know what? Good on you, giant octopus. Whatever your name is. I think it's like Odoku or something. It's like the Japanese word for squid or something. I don't know. Either way, let's move on to the music. Now, the music in this movie is very effective, and it works, and it's pretty good. It's not the best kaiju score I've ever heard in my life, but it's pretty good. And I mean, come on, it's Akira Ifukube, aka the guy who's done like so many kaiju movie scores, and like, you can't go wrong with him. It is so good. And when you're watching the movie, the music really helps to build, like, to improve the scenes that the music is in. It's really good. Again, not my favorite, but I could definitely listen to it on any day of the week. So yeah, the music is really good. Now, for other stuff that I want to talk about, there's really only two things I want to mention here. First off is the pacing of the movie. This movie is so well paced. This movie doesn't feel slow at any points. I know a lot of people think it like kind of doesn't get going like immediately, like it takes a while for it to get going. But personally, I don't think it does. I think it stays interesting from beginning to end. Whether you're talking about the kick-ass kaiju scenes or the scenes with the humans, because yeah, sure, the humans aren't like the most interesting characters ever, but most of the human scenes are there to like further the plot, you know, they're not just there for no reason. Well, actually I lie. There is one scene that is kind of pointless, and that is the song sequence. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't, then there's this scene where this woman is like performing like a music session, like a music sequence, where a lady is basically just performing a song, and like they go through the entire number. Like she sings the entire song, like they don't cut away. It does end like, I don't think it goes on for too long. I think it goes on for like a maximum of 2 minutes, which is obviously not that long, but it's just kind of weird. But honestly, it's just such a weird little scene that I kind of adore it. Because yeah, it's pointless, kind of, but it's just funny to me. Like, it's just such a weird scene, and I can't help but love it. But overall, besides that, I would say this movie has some of the best pacing of any kaiju movie ever. I think it's one of the most rewatchable kaiju movies, actually. That's definitely probably something I'm gonna maybe regret saying in the future, but whatever. And the other thing I want to say is that if there was one major problem I have with this movie, it's that the ending, like, is so rushed, and it feels like it comes out of nowhere. Now, I'm not talking about the final battle, because that battle is great, but it's how it all ends. Now, I won't spoil it, because I haven't given, like, a spoiler warning or anything, but if you've seen the movie, then you probably know what I'm talking about. It's just incredibly rushed, and it feels like the writers just wrote themselves into a corner, and they were just like, we have to end this somehow. So, yeah, the ending is pretty disappointing. And again, if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. But besides that, I can't really think of anything else to really say here. I think I've mostly gone for everything I want to say, so let's move on to the conclusion. Now, yeah, I personally think this is one of the best kaiju movies, or at least one of my favorites. I actually think it might be in my top 10 currently. That could very quickly change, but for now, I think it is. It's an incredibly enjoyable, very well-paced movie with some great kaiju stuff and action in it, and mostly solid stuff like music, characters, story, and everything. The only major problem I have with it is, again, the rushed ending, but besides that, it's really good, and I personally think it's the best non-Godzilla Toho movie. So, you know, that's gotta count for something. I also think it's one of the most underrated movies, because I barely see anyone talking about this film. Which is really a big shame, because I think it's like a pretty great movie, honestly. But, overall, War of the Gargantuas is going to get a 9 out of 10. Yep, that's right, a 9 out of 10. That might have been unexpected for you guys, but I can't help it, man. I personally love this movie. But yeah, that was it for my Triple G cast video on War of the Gargantuas and the pilot episode. So again, be sure to tell me in the comments if you want the series to continue, and if you want to show me it in another way, then you can hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. You can also tell me what you guys think of War of the Gargantuas in the comments below. I would love to see what you guys think. And yeah, I pretty much don't have anything else to say. Again, if you liked the video, be sure to give it a like. If you haven't already and you like the stuff that I upload, then be sure to subscribe. And I'll see you guys in my next video. So see you guys later. Bye bye.